Good afternoon, buenas tardes, bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa, Mujer? Welcome to ¿Qué pasa, Mujer? Today, we're in a new month, so we're November the 3rd. 2 months left for 2024, and then we'll get started with 2025. Estamos muy contentos que están con nosotros. Nos quedan 2 meses del año de 2024. O sea que en 2 meses empezaremos el 2025. O sea que empiecen a organizarse bien para empezar el 2025 bien. We're going to go ahead and get started really quick. We're going to bring in Nicté and Maddie when our wonderful producer is ready. Hola, Nicté, ¿cómo estás?
Buenos
Maddie, ¿cómo
días,
estás?
mujeres, tardes, noches.
Nicté, estás un poco como calmadita con los colores hoy. ¿Qué pasó?
I'm so tired.
Ay, pobrecita.
I see la tiki tiki. No, I've just been I just have my bad endo pains and it kind of just sucks the life out of you. So I got my energy today. So this will be my second cup. This is actually an energy drink. That's how tired I'm feeling.
Oh, wow. And it's what time over there?
It's 11, but I'm 7 hours behind y'all now.
Right.
So now we have more time difference. They don't observe daylight savings here, so we stay the same. We stay cool all year long. That's what I'm gonna say.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Good.
today I'm taking it easy and calming and soothing with my colors and feeling grounded.
Sí, me doy cuenta. So, ¿qué significa el color azul en tu mundo?
So en mi mundo, en realidad en el mundo, for everybody, el azul siempre se conecta con trust, loyalty, calmness.
Confianza.
You can, like the darker the colors can feel a little more grounded, a little more trustworthy. So sometimes I leverage that color with branding especially, but within the way that I want to feel as well with the colors that I will wear, it makes me feel más tranquila, más presente.
Like the ocean.
Yes, I love the ocean, and so it's a way to kinda, even though I'm not feeling as energetic, because sometimes I wear brighter colors to kind of bring me that energy, but today I'm just honoring my body, and I'm just like, "Okay, I'm gonna take it easy and just not push myself." You know how sometimes we push ourselves to, like, "Go, go, go." I'm like, "No, no, no. Today, tranquilito, suave," and I'm embracing these beautiful hues to kind of be calming.
I love it. Me encanta. What about you, Maddie? What's going on in your world and your colors?
No, doing good. I'm highlighting the purple because I have purple in my nails. I don't know if you can see it. So I have purple on my toes, my nails, and my lips.
Ooh, I love it.
What does purple mean, Nicte?
Yeah, tell us.
It can be, so depending on how, like, what range, but I think the purples that you have, it's spirituality, possibilities. You can think about like the universe, todo lo que you see, those beautiful colors out in like the satellite in the universe. So it's like thinking about all the possibilities, but it's also very connected to spirituality and royalty. Because back in the day, only the really wealthy people could afford the purple dyes, which was very sad. They would take like a little mollusk, they kind of swiped it from the front to the butt, and that would kind of kill them. And it would take, I think it's like 20,000, a lot of them, to make that dye to produce the dyes that they would go and stain all the robes and whatnot. So that's why it was so expensive. So that's the connection to loyalty, or royalty, perdón.
Okay, definitely spirituality. I've been missing my mom lately. The past couple of days have been like really rough. So yeah, so I could, it's kind of takes you back a little bit, makes you reel it in, and but it's funny. My friend shared a video with me today, and when you're grieving, somebody, because grief never goes away. So when you're grieving, you can either be sad about it or just be happy for the time that you got to spend with that person and how special that person was in your life. And that's kind of how I've been trying to look at it.
Very good.
Celebrate
what
your
about
mom.
orange? So my nail polish is orange, but my lips are red, but because I couldn't find my orange lipstick.
They're in the same family.
But it
Yes,
looks like a
they're warm.
clash, no?
No, if you feel good about it, I say wear it.
Oh, okay.
So you can sometimes wear colors that are within like they're next to each other within the color wheel, and orange is very connected to creativity, and in some indigenous cultures también it's very connected to the land. So depending on how bright, but the brighter orange is more for creativity. It feels tropical, energetic. So, and red
Very
is bold confidence. I love that lipstick on you.
all right, cool. And Maddie, I didn't mean to dismiss what you were talking about because I was like, oh, what about orange? No, but you know what? I don't know if I have mentioned it on the show before, but I had seen a gentleman and they were talking about death, and they were talking about that same point that you were making of grieving. And I think sometimes sometimes we grieve over different things. Like even for me, I've never had anybody close to me pass away like that, but maybe I've grieved other things in other situations. It's not always necessarily death. Um, but I think that's really interesting because whenever I think about death, I think about angels, and I always think how they look out for me, and so I try to, but I'm sure it's going to be so much harder when somebody really close to me passes away, because I can say it now because it's easier to say because I haven't been there. But I'm sure when that happens is easier said than done. But yeah, I think that's a good perspective to accept that you're grieving, but then try and take like a twist to it,
Mhm.
because it can hurt. Like even Nikte last week, she got a little teary because our guest was talking about the premature baby and stuff like that. So even though it happened so many years ago, but you still hurt, just remembering that situation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I do think it's great and important to talk about these things because I think sometimes we're so like society makes us want to or says there's like this thing like you have to grieve and move on and forget about it. And Maddie, you're so connected with your emotions and you're very open about how you experience the highs and the lows. And I think sometimes there's that human factor that we just don't want to talk about. Sometimes we're just like, let's go, let's go, let's go. So I do think it's beautiful, and you had a wonderful relationship with your mom, which not a lot of people have. So I think that there's that beauty that you can honor her legacy in as you a mom, now abuela. And so like there's that beautiful legacy of that experience that you had with your mama that you can pass down to your generations after you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, because one of those things I remember somebody saying, like, it's so awesome that my children are able to experience their grandmother. So when they get older, they're going to have memories of their grandmother. And so many people can't. But Maddie, even though your mom's not here, you can still create memories for your granddaughter of your mom. She could still have memories of her or seeing pictures, or if you tell her stories about her or whatever. So I think that's pretty neat, that we can do that.
Yeah, always. My daughter had a great relationship with my mom. So my daughter remembers her a lot and talks to the baby a lot. Even today, we were putting on like a little hat because she was getting ready to go outside. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, she looks just like mama. And it was like that memory, and we all laughed about it. So yes.
That's beautiful.
That's pretty cool. I like that. So today we have a really special guest. So okay, so I'm Colombian. So people in my family, I don't have property in Colombia, but I have family members that live here in the United States and they have property in Colombia, right? So you have Dominicans that have, property in the Dominican Republic. So depending what country you're from, because you're familiarized with it, you have some type of connection. But then we have some people like our guest, and we're going to get to know her a little bit more, but she's not from the Dominican Republic, but she bought property in the Dominican Republic. So we're going to talk about how it could be considered, like, it made me think about Reina, how she was saying last week that she just does crazy stuff sometimes in her life. So it'll be interesting to know if this was considered a crazy move for our guest Jackie. So we're going to go ahead and bring her on, Mark, so we can learn a little bit why people like Jackie do what they do. Hi, Jackie. Welcome to the show.
Hi,
Buenos
everyone.
dias. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good
Yes.
afternoon.
This is Jacqueline, but we're gonna call her Jackie. And so when she came on, I was like, "Who is Harley Property Management?" Because I didn't know this about you. But Jackie, I met Jackie probably like a year ago or so. She's a nurse, but she's a real estate investor. So Jackie, if you could tell us a little bit about just a little bit about your cultural background, because I want to know a little bit where your accent comes from. Because we're here, you're here in Virginia, but I
Mhm.
just want to know a little bit more about the accent and your background and where you grew up and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I am actually a native of Virginia. I was born in Washington, D.C. because my parents both attended Howard University, but my mom is from here. Originally, my grandparents on my mom's side they're from North Carolina, probably about an hour and a half away from here, called Hertford County. So I don't know if a combination of maybe them being from North Carolina, my ex-husband being from Georgia. I lived in northern Suffolk for a while, probably about a good 8 years, and I used to work at Oversea Hospital, which is going towards the more rural parts of Suffolk.
Yeah,
So
that's where my
I don't
youngest son was born.
yeah, mine too. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that's kind of a collaboration of the different parts of my accent, but then sometimes people say depending on where I am, it'll change. If I go to DC, it'll change. If I stay around my stepmom's family from Trinidad, I'll end up talking just as fast as they do. So even though it's still English, they talk very fast. So I think it just kind of depends on environment. But I've grown up in Hampton all of my life, and if I thought that I was going to be here all of my life, I would have did things a little bit differently. However, my background is that I am multiracial. So I am Black, white, and Native American. So my dad's family is Creole from Mississippi, and my mom's family is from North Carolina. So growing up quite often with friends and neighbors, there wasn't a large Hispanic population. However, it just so happened that one of my neighbors across the street, they were a military family and they were Puerto Rican, and I've known them since I was 4. So just being able to grow up with different people, and my best friend happens to also be mixed. She's half black and half Korean. It started at a young age. It's just being open to different cultures, because you meet people, you enjoy people, you learn about their cultures, you have an appreciation for them, and it just kind of grew from there. So I always say I'm an equal opportunity friend, especially when there's food involved. So I think that's
Hmm.
kind of where a lot of it's come from. And I've actually met Maggie before. She actually had helped me on my journey when I started doing and making my real estate a business opposed to just, a home that I owned, because I always feel like I'm really big on community. The neighborhood that I grew up in is the same neighborhood that my mom and my aunt grew up in. My aunt and my mom still live there, and that's where my home is. That is our rental property. So I kind of felt that bond and that tight knit community. That's one of the things that we kind of miss here. So that's kind of how it started. And Maggie was able to kind of help me in the banking thing. I had to figure out some things on my own, but it just kind of flourished and went from there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't call it exciting, but I love to travel, and it just kind of blossomed from there.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So was the property that you bought in the Dominican Republic, why did you pick the Dominican Republic? Why not Colombia?
It could have been anywhere. I just will say, as a whole, whenever I've visited a lot of places. I haven't been to Europe yet, but I've visited a lot of countries in the Caribbean. And honestly, I enjoy a lot of them, or if not all of them. However, because I think it's just a different feel. It's like if you're a friend down there, you're family. So it didn't matter if I was in Trinidad. It didn't matter when I went to Jamaica. It didn't matter if I was in the Bahamas, because my sister-in-law is from the Bahamas. It's kind of like if you're a friend, you're family. They're very embracing people. And the same thing with the Dominican Republic. So the first time I went there, I just had a wonderful vacation. And so when I decided to go back, I had actually looked on TikTok. You're scrolling, you're seeing stuff, and I kept seeing this one young lady who would post things, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance and I'm gonna message her. And I was like, yeah, this will be a great idea. That way, we'll have a vacation home, something we can enjoy, and maybe it might bring some type of generational wealth to our kids in the future. And so, of course, when I got there, it was a lot different than I thought it was. And I was like, oh, hold on. And so I still came home saying, yeah, I found a place, but it wasn't necessarily the place that I was thinking of. And so it's definitely been an adventure, I will say, but it's not for the faint at heart. And I could give tons of advice on what to do and not to do, because if you're not careful, you can have a lot of hiccups. And no one wants to have those type of negative things impact you, especially when it comes to possibly losing money that you invest.
Mhm. So how long have you had the property?
So actually, so the first property I purchased was actually a pre-construction apartment. So they're actually in the process of building, because in the Dominican Republic, I picked there just because it's up and coming. They're having tons of tourism come. So I figured like, hey, if we can purchase something and then rent it out when we're not using it, it'll be great. But I wanted to make it something that would fit our family. And so we picked a certain development called Vista Cana. So it's a gated community. It's about 10 minutes from the airport, 15 minutes from the beach. But it has a lot of amenities, like whether it's tennis and pickleball or equestrian center. They have an artificial beach. So technically you could stay right in that development, or you could venture out. And so we decided to go ahead and jump and get this apartment. And it was like a 2 bedroom, and they were above one another. And it had an elevator. So I was like, hey, if we get older, I don't want to have to worry about going upstairs. So I just trying to think of all the little things, because this is long term. But I actually decided to, I told my fiance, I said, we still have this place, but I think I want to do something else. I'm really big on family. And one of my family members is special needs, and he's pretty much a total care patient. He does walk, but he walked way more when we were younger. And his life expectancy was like 8 to 10. Well, he's 55 years old and he's still here. And, doctors say, I don't know how they do it. I don't know, what happened. Um, how is he still here? And all they could say was, it's because he has such great care. Like his family really pitches in and does everything. So he does use a wheelchair a lot. So I've decided to buy a piece of land, and we're building a home that's wheelchair accessible, because there's so many people out there who maybe they want a vacation but they don't have access, or they want a vacation and there's hotels that they can go to that's all inclusive, but quite honestly maybe all inclusive is not what they're looking for, because you eat tons of food, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, but that's not really what brought you there. So I had to find the right piece of land. I had to make sure that everything was clear on it. So I always tell people, learning from what I've learned from the young lady, our realtor from TikTok, you have to make sure you do a due diligence. You need to hire a lawyer. You might think it's a waste, but it's not, because they're going to do all these title searches, and they're going to make sure that that this individual has a legal right to sell this land, because you don't want to give someone a down payment on something and then guess what? You've lost it because they really, or maybe I guess in the Dominican Republic, when someone owns it, it's not just me. Like automatically it's going to go with myself and my spouse if I'm married. And then if you have grown children, their names could be listed on there too, because they're part of your family, and therefore it the ownership. So it's definitely been a process. We've been doing it since June, and I'm hoping we close here shortly. But you also have to find the right architect, someone who's willing to change floor plans, because a lot of times they're not. They're like, no, this is the house that we're going to build you. And I'm like, no, that's not what I need. I need something that doesn't have steps. I need door frames that are wide enough for a wheelchair. I need showers that there's no step in, and the wheelchair can just be wheeled straight in. No, I need a pool in the backyard that they can actually do like a water wheelchair, and they could just go in the pool. So it's definitely been an exciting experience. Sometimes, you get little butterflies and everything, but it can also be very emotional. But I would always tell anybody who does something like this, is it Is it doable? Absolutely. But you just have to make sure that you have the right resources and the right people involved to help you, because you wouldn't want to, have something catastrophic happen. Like, hey, I put $10,000 or $20,000 down, and then now it's just gone. So you have to do your due diligence to protect yourself, in your investment. So just don't do it like, and have the expectations like you would here, because even their banking and their loans, it's different. It is different. For example, you can't even open a bank account down there unless you meet certain criteria. You have to have like 6 months of your paycheck stubs. You have to have your W-2s. You need a letter from a family member or friend who's Dominican. And I'm like, but I'm not Dominican. How is this going to happen? And they're really like that letter of that person vouching for you, it's significant. And I was like, oh, okay. So, just kind of going, and of course, it's more helpful if that person happens to live there, not an American Dominican, because even then it's like, hey, they're Dominican, but do they have something that's called a Sabella, which basically shows their lineage. So it's definitely a ride, but I think in the end, it's going to be well worth it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
awesome. That's
awesome.
one of
That's
the
one of
things
the
that
things
I've
that I've
talked to my sons about because I'm Colombian, so I have the ability, so I have dual citizenship, right?
Mhm.
So then when you're like a native of the country, then the rules may change a little bit versus somebody from another country coming in to purchase and stuff like that. So I think that's one of, for those of you that are out there that can potentially get dual citizenship, I would definitely do it. I know, like, I was born in Colombia, so I have the dual citizenship, but my children were born in the United States, but they're eligible for dual
Right.
citizenship because I'm Colombian. Um, so definitely do some research in reference to that because there could definitely be some benefits
Mhm.
to having that dual citizenship. I think
And
it's
then,
awesome that you did that, Jackie.
yeah, and then actually, depending on what countries that you determine where you want to invest in, if you meet certain criteria, you can actually get dual citizenship based on your investment. So if your investment costs but so much, and it can be your home, it could be a business, a certain amount of money, you can actually apply for dual citizenship if that's something you choose to do.
Mhm.
That's very interesting, Jackie. I think it's wonderful that you're sharing this journey, like the highs and lows, because I think sometimes people who have never done that might get that enamored idea of like, oh, I can go anywhere and buy a house. And, then they find out there's so many stipulations that go through the process. But it's really great that you've shared, all these things. You've done your due diligence too, which I think that that's so important, that people think it's just, oh, I have the money, I can just go buy anywhere. And it doesn't work like that. So it's nice that you share that. And I also think that one of the things that I love that you're doing for your family member is making sure that your house is ADA compliant. I'm always curious how those laws play internationally, because I think here
They
in the
don't.
States,
They
yeah,
don't.
that's what I was kind of wondering, if that doesn't exist, because it unfortunately has, when I remember being growing up, that's not something that people would discuss. So I think that that's powerful in sharing that story, that I wish more countries were embrace that, because I think that it's that experience that you are creating for your family and making sure everyone can come together and enjoy that moment. So I think that that's beautiful that you are doing that. And it'll be exciting to see what your house looks like, and once you're there and it's built and you guys are enjoying it, because it does sound like it's a great journey.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think too, like Jackie is a nurse, so part of that is, so she has that intuition of being a caretaker as well.
Right.
But I think I know in my country, in Colombia, you just pay somebody some money and they will make the door as wide as you want to. There is no compliance. There's no permit. If you have the money, they will make the door as wide and high as you want to. I don't know
And the
if it's
thing
like that in the Dominican Republic.
and they probably will, like, if you come across the right builder, maybe they will, but there's income restrictions. Like, I wish I could say I had endless pockets, but I don't. And the way that they do purchasing down there, like for example, if you did a pre-construction for an apartment or a house or townhouse, you have to put 20% down. So you might say, oh, well, this is only 150,000. Well, if you don't have, what is it, 30,000 or whatever the case may be to even start the process, then it's not going to happen. And then on top of that, every month you make monthly payments. Now the great thing is that they're interest free while you're making those payments. And so they'll give you a particular date of when it is over, and you're supposed to close. And then after you close, then okay, and you have a balance of 50% or 40%, and you can go get a loan. They make it seem so easy, and it is easier because the building is already a wreck. From what I've been told, there are some banks who are a little bit more friendly to people who aren't native Dominicans. However, when you talk about a piece of land that's nothing's on, it's a little bit harder. You still have to put at least 20%. And quite honestly, because the fact that I'm not Dominican, they didn't even want to do that. So I literally had to do about 40%. So the bank did 60 and I had to do 40. And then I still have to go to the builder saying, this is what I want. How do we make this happen? And then guess what? Another 30% down. And then another 20% payments while they're building. And so that's going to take, approximately a year. And then you'll close and then you'll get a mortgage for the rest of it. So again, I'm not saying that it can't be an achievable goal for anyone, but you really did have to have that discipline or being able to have like that cash on hand. And if you don't, it can definitely kind of put a hiccup in things. Whereas if you happen to be Dominican, you can actually get a loan up to, I believe it's like 80% of the cost if it's a building that's already erect, opposed to someone who's non-Dominican, where you might have to put 30 to 40% down. So they're all definitely their benefits, but I've met some great people, and even my broker for my loan, I consider him a friend, because even with every little hiccup, he was like, Jackie, don't worry about it, I got it. And I was like, this is kind of stressful. He was like, don't stress. I'm here. And literally, whether it's an update, hey, I just wanted to know this is what I'm doing today. So before I can even wonder or possibly get a little anxious, he's been there every step of the way, even to the point when we went to the bank. Like, hey, do you need me to take you to the airport? I'm like, no, you don't have to pick us up. I mean, he is basically a very genuine person. And I think it's because although he's there to help people and it's a business for him, I'm a big person in community and giving back. So every time I go, I take all these bags. And my hubby's like, why do we have all these bags? And I was like, hey, we're going to take all this stuff to the orphanages there, because these kids outgrow these clothes, and they're great clothes, or, different types of school supplies. And he's like literally in the airport, like, why do we have 5 bags? And it's two of us and we're going for 3 days. And we literally would visit local orphanages and donate stuff. And then he was like, and at first he didn't get it until we went there the first time, and he saw that there were individuals who didn't have shoes on, or their clothes were really kind of tattered and worn. And I was just like, whether it's this community here in Hampton or the community, even though that would be our home away from home, I want to be able to say that I had a positive impact and I helped some, instead of just being the type of person that takes things away.
That's amazing. I love your attitude, Jackie. Just because everything that you just said in the last 30 seconds, I think, that's why good things happen to good people. And the more you give, the more you receive. But I just love the generosity, that's coming from your end. And it's awesome that you're able to have a partner that is, going with your flow, and then he's able to see it. I think that's pretty awesome. But before we go on, I just wanted to acknowledge our some of our fans over here, our regulars: Lili, Nikauri, Tangi, Jocelyn, and I think also somebody else said to tell us hello. Miluska. Miluska is going to be on the show soon as well. We made some arrangements today. But yeah, I just think it's awesome I don't know, Maddie, what do you think about, Jackie buying property in your neck of the woods?
I think it's wonderful. I think the main thing that she said is what we keep reinforcing every time here in the show. You gotta educate yourself. You gotta do your research. You gotta inquire. You gotta ask questions. Don't just settle for, oh, this looks good. Let me dip into this. So that's very important. Do your research. Educate yourself. Wherever you choose to go. I have my cousin, was born here in the United States, and of course, our parents are Dominican. She is my mother's sister's daughter, and she went and she got her dual citizenship, and she did the same thing. She bought a pre-construction, and it was an apartment, and I remember we went to visit, and she was like. Go pass by my apartment and tell me how is it going. And I remember sending her pictures, and literally it was like the drawing on the floor of the building. And I was like, what? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be in the first floor. And like she had this whole vision, and I'm like, girl, they're gonna take your money. And literally 2 years later, she has a beautiful apartment. She was able to close on it. So when I heard Jackie telling about the process, that's exactly what she did. She put a chunk down, then she was making monthly payments, and then whatever she had left went to a mortgage, and now she pays monthly payments to her mortgage. So, and the place is gorgeous, it's beautiful, and it's in a neighborhood that we know. It's actually where my husband grew up in. So like the beach that's like right across the building is the beach where we let my brother's ashes go. So I mean it's beautiful location. So it's very special. Also, I guess I told you guys about my friend who he's Dominican, and he bought property in Mexico, and he bought one apartment, and then when we went to Mexico to visit 2 years ago, he bought another apartment. So so again, it's about doing your research, connection, because you need help from somebody that's from there, and to be able to make it through from beginning to end. So, and it's beautiful that you're helping out in the communities and recognizing that need, because I think that's one of the biggest things when we go to countries such as Dominican Republic. Even I visited Puerto Rico, who happens to be a Dominican. An American, part of the United States, and still, you do see the need, and I definitely appreciate, or I'm grateful that you are willing, not so much able, but that you're willing to contribute in any way that you can. So that's beautiful.
Thank you.
So what part of Dominican Republic did you buy the property? Maybe
It's
Maddie knows.
it's in Punta Cana, and it's in a development called Vista Cana. So,
Mm.
for there's probably like 20 different builders out there, because I guess they bought different pieces of land and they're building, whether apartments or villas or townhouses or duplexes, you name it. Now, one thing I would say, you have to be patient. And when you do that due diligence, your lawyer should be kind of looking at the reputation of the builder, because there's so many builders that run behind, and they might promise you, hey, it's going to be done in 2 years, and now it takes 3 years, and things happen because there's everything has to be shipped in. There's weather issues. Right now they're having issues with like labor, not having enough labor. So you have to be patient, but I think at the same time, like, we've been down there since November. I've been there 3 times, just kind of going through the process of each time. And every time I go, I kind of look at the progress. We document it. So with time, what we wanted to do is kind of document our journey so people kind of see all the different phases that we do. But it's definitely been interesting. So, and they'll even have an international school in our development. So, for people who love the beach, being close to the beach, and that's what, they're like, hey, you're within walking distance to the beach. And I think that's amazing. We've stayed at some great places. But at the same time, I don't know if it's because I'm used to being in a semi urban area such as Hampton Roads. I don't know if I want just everybody right there. Like, I love exchanging with people, but at the same time, when I'm on vacation, I want it a little bit more laid back. I don't, I would like to meet people, but I guess I want to meet people on my own terms and not necessarily be approached all the time. So being in a gated community kind of gives me like, hey, I can go out and do things when I want to, but at the same time, if I want to stay home, I can stay home.
You got really lucky with that TikToker you selected.
I did. And actually, she had a baby shower yesterday. She was like, "You want to come down?" I mean, it's one of those things that I
Uh-huh.
feel like life is about building relationships. And so you never know what particular interaction that you have is going to affect. Like, what's my purpose in life? I don't know what my purpose in life is, but I've had, like, for one, I've had a patient one time, and if my one moment was the point that I was supposed to make sure that he was okay, and he lived through his really bad time of sepsis, then it returned back to me because he was my grandmother's nurse when she had her stent placement. And I looked and I was like, "Is your name such and such?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You were my patient." And he even told my grandma, he says, "Grandma, I have to take really good care of you." Now, he didn't call her by her name, he called her grandma. And he happened to be Mexican. And she says, "Well, don't you take really good care of all your patients?" And he says, "Well, yeah, I do, but I really have to take really good care of you because Jackie saved my life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her." And after he got out of the military, he decided to become a nurse. And he said he became a nurse because of myself and the other nurse that spent so much time with him. I've had plenty of students, and that's how met Viviana. That, sometimes, hey, I don't know how I got out of nursing school if it wasn't without your help. And I'm like, well, I just want to see other people do well, because how would I be a good educator if I didn't want to share what I have to make you a better person? And so, even with this journey of bringing stuff back, I talked to one of my good friends, and she's from Nicaragua. And she was like, "Hey, I got the perfect thing for you, Jackie." She happens to be my accountant too. So that kind of helps when it goes to stuff. She says, "I have a friend who has a nonprofit right here in Atlanta, and his wife is from Nicaragua, and he is American, and they actually do mission trips, and they go to Nicaragua and they help with healthcare and housing, because sometimes people were living on dirt floors and had tarps as homes." And she says, and now they're in the Dominican Republic. They're actually in the Puerto Plata area. And so she was like, "I think this would be great for you." She said, "Because you're always trying to figure out how you can help." And that particular nonprofit works with several schools: nursing, respiratory therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. And they actually go into communities helping people with housing, health care. And they even make sure that when there's individuals that they can meet and come across that have special needs, they try to give them those extra things to kind of help them transfer or get in the homes. And she's like, "I think it'll be perfect for you. I'm going to tell them to give you a call." So they do a healthcare summit every year. I can't attend this year, but definitely I'll probably end up, if the Dominican Republic is going to be my second home, then that's another way that I can go, and I can, positively impact other people, and then still, say, "Hey, I went on vacation, but while I was down there, I still went to work and I still helped people."
That's
I
awesome.
love that. It sounds like everything is kind of connecting for you. You have this intention and it's like grounded to who you are, and all of these opportunities are coming in your circle to keep spreading and that support that you've been doing. So I do love that it's starting to play for you, and it kind of shows too when you set your mind to do something, even though something is challenging and you want to do good for others, like you were saying, Viviana, too, it does come full circle and you start to see these great ripple effects from that journey that you're on.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you say, Jackie, that you have to be patient, right? Because the culture is different in other countries. And a lot of us want the microwave effect. We want to move in 60, 90 days. Like, and I think it's having those expectations that are clear, right? And guess what? It might not be a year, it might be a year and a half, or, whatever it might be. But I think knowing, hey, you're not paying any interest while you're making your payments, and just being patient with the process, because I think if you add anxiety to it, it just is going to be chaotic for you, and it defeats the purpose of the additional help that you're giving to other people, because yes, it's going to be your vacation home, but then you also impacting so many other people as well. And so I think that it's good to know that you have the patience, and somebody told you that we needed patience, or you had to see it to say, oh, I'm going to need patience, one of the two. but I just think it's very important. It's going to be so worth it, once it's done, and you're, calling me and practicing your Spanish from the Dominican Republic. So it's just amazing, and I just love it. And Jackie has a really I've seen her in a professional setting. She comes with her nursing students. They always come to volunteering events, and she's always like full of energy, and I just think it's awesome. Like you radiate through the camera as well. So I wanted to know, what do you do when you're not doing nursing and Dominican Republic business? Like, what I see you like the bright. That's one your sweater. That's one of my favorite colors.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to know, what do you do for fun
Uh,
besides
for
that?
fun, travel is my fun, but quite honestly, I can't say I've been having the best fun. This last year's been a rough one. My grandmother passed last year, and then this year my mom actually got sick and from the flu. So it's all I always tell people, it's okay if you don't want to get the flu shot. That's okay. Some people choose to, some people not, but you can't ignore symptoms. So just like medicine says, if you're not getting well in 5 days or so, you need to go to the doctor. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm getting older. It's taking me longer to get over things. And my mom, literally, when I found her, she had almost passed away from the flu. She was septic. And yeah, if I would have, found her a couple more hours. Now, she does have a lot of, unfortunately, chronic issues because she had to be intubated and her kidneys had failed. So she's a dialysis patient. And she has some other issues too, kind of all related to. I said, Mom, when your computer shut down her body, it didn't really reboot the way it was supposed to. You only got about half. And so that is definitely, a trying that time, but I will say I'm really big on family. And so I'm trying to give her everything that she needs. I still help with my special needs cousin. So and I have 3 kids. So, and I had 2 additional bonus kids. They're older siblings from their mom's side. So I always say, hey, we're always busy around here, but not too busy for family. But to me, it was really important that I wanted to learn the language. I've been around so many, Latino people as I've, kind of grown up, and I've always had that great appreciation for, anybody's culture. I think that, learning about different people, is great. I've had tons of friends who are Filipino who are nurses or who happen to be from Ghana. And, the longer you're around, people, you kind of pick up on things, even if you don't speak the language. And I had tell people, just because someone doesn't speak the language doesn't mean they're stupid or they don't understand you, because even my friend's grandma, we call her Abuela. I didn't realize I was calling her that at 4. We didn't realize until about 6 or 7. Oh, we were just calling her grandma the whole time. So even when we went to DR and I'm looking at documentation from the bank, it's all in Spanish. So again, you had your help there, but I had my hubby beside me, and then they were like, "Oh, well, we can convert it on the computer so that way you'll know what it says in English." And I'm like, "Okay," but in the meanwhile, I was already reading it, and I read like 3 paragraphs, and they kind of looked at me and they said, "Well, I thought you don't speak Spanish." I was like, "I don't speak Spanish. You didn't ask me, could I read Spanish?" I was like, "That's a different story." I was like, "I can read a decent amount, but that doesn't mean." And so my hubby was like, "Well, how much is the minimum?" I was like, "Oh, it's 300. It's on this page. There you go." And she was like, "Well, how much is this?" And I was able to flip to it, and they were like, "Yeah, you need to learn Spanish anyway because you're already halfway there." I think it's
Yeah.
just building the confidence of saying it because you're afraid to say it incorrectly or say it wrong, and then to kind of have someone look at you. And I think, maybe if you had someone who was different, who maybe didn't look Latino, that they're a little bit more forgiving. But then I kind of get looks like, "What do you mean? You're like, your parents didn't even teach you?" And I'm like, "But I'm not Latino." And they'll be like, "Not even half." No, not even half. I just look like y'all beautiful people. But so, it'll be nice to be able to communicate with people. But I will say in Punta Cana, because it's so much of a tourist area, there's a lot of people who speak multiple languages. Like, I've met so many polyglots that, not only do they speak English and Spanish, they'll speak French, they'll speak Creole, sometimes they speak Russian. So I think it's amazing that, individuals down there can just learn and conversate so well. And I'm still trying to speak English well. So I mean,
That's funny. Yeah, I just think it's awesome because you're so open. You've been exposed to so much culture. Nikte is actually she's actually my cousin, my blood cousin. And her mom is Colombian, her dad is Mexican. She was born in Mexico, but she grew up in Venezuela. So when she
Oh,
was in Venezuela, she went to a I would call it international school. So there was a lot of people. That went to that school just from a lot of different countries. So Nicte always grew up around all kind of different cultures. So she sounds very similar to you in your experiences. And I know through the nursing, you just get to meet, just so many the diversity. I think it's unexplainable compared to maybe other professions. So I just think that it opens up your brain a little bit more. I think it makes you less fearful of making moves like buying a house in the Dominican Republic, because you're just open to other possibilities, and I just think that's awesome that you're able to do that. So talk to me a little bit, because we're almost done, about Harley Property Management.
yeah. So actually, when I put it in, I actually wasn't expecting to do that, but that was a journey on itself. So my home that my mom actually lives in is my rental property, and I learned a long time ago. It's like, I've always grown up, in church, and I consider myself a Christian, and it's okay even if someone doesn't. But you're supposed to honor your parents, and I'm like, well, I'm supposed to take care of my mom. But when it came to banks, they didn't care that it was for my mom because she wasn't elderly just that yet, even though she had had some hard times. So when I purchased it, 20% down, your credit had to be just right, and go through that rigorous thing because it was like a second home. And so I was, helping my mom, but at the same time, I'm paying all this, cost. So it was actually COVID that, made me stop. And when I had to stay home for 3 weeks from work, I read tax books, and I was like, so you're telling me if I made a business, a LLC, the same stuff that I'm already having to do, I get a more of a tax incentive, because it's a business. But I'm just trying to take good care of my mom, and that's kind of how it started. So reading tax books, I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to develop a LLC. But it was before TikTok or Facebook, so it was kind of developing on my own and like digging and researching. But one thing in nursing, I'm a nurse educator, so we have aspects of research. So I always say, look, if I don't know it, I'm gonna find the answer. So with all those steps, it was like, okay, first you got to look for your business name. You got to go through the state, and then you go through the IRS to get a tax ID number, and then you go to the bank, and then that's when I met Maddie, because then I was like, okay, I'm at the bank, I'm trying to figure this stuff out, and she was like, oh, you're fine. We'll help walk you through all the steps, and that's what I did. And then I started from there, building business credit, and just kind of utilizing the tools that are already in place that so many people don't know about. But that doesn't mean they're not bills, that doesn't mean it's not debt. It's still debt, but it does give you a different advantage to kind of taking care of things. So even when it comes to investments, so it might be more out of pocket, but in the long term goal, you can have that, generational wealth, or wealth when I get older, because now they said there's no social security past 2035, and then I don't retire until 2040. So I might be out of luck. So therefore, things like the rental property can kind of give some more income. So then that way I can stay home at 62. I figure if I work this hard, I don't want to work until I'm 70. I want to go home to the house at 62, and I want to be a snowbird. But instead of staying in Florida, I want to go all the way to DR and stay down there when it's cold, and then come back when I feel like it. But it's definitely a process. But I feel like when you meet good people, and when you're diligent, and you do all these steps, there's been several people that I've helped. They're like, well, what did you do? And I'm like, you have to do these steps. And there's so many people say, hey, I want to do it, and then when you give them the tools, they never follow through. They're too busy, they don't have enough time. And I'm like, well, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because you could be making your money go further for you. And then there's even been times that I'll say, hey, would you like me to do it for you? I'll do it for you, but just know this: before my mom got sick, I was like, I'm gonna charge you. But I'll make sure that you have your name, your tax ID, your doings number. You can build your credit, and you don't have to be perfect. People think that, oh, well, businesses are only for people who have like 700 and 800 credit scores, and it's really not. But you have to start somewhere. So sometimes you have to crawl before you walk. But then, in my case, because I was a little bit more financially secure, not that I don't have student loans still, I was able to kind of bypass the smaller things and go straight to the bank. So, like, for example, even with my business, there's a lot of work that you do on homes and haul dirt and wood and mulch, and we're putting in the back of our personal vehicles. So, it's going on 2 years now that we actually have a work truck that has a bed, so that way we can do all that, and so we don't, damaging our cars or getting it dirty. But if I didn't start with my bank and meeting Maddie and doing the first steps with just getting a checking account, then I wouldn't have been able to buy it with the business credit and just kind of keep growing and expanding. And it's really, when you go places and someone will say, "Hey, Harley Property Management," like when I get my car serviced, they're expecting to see, I guess, a different type of person. And then when you come up and they're kind of like, "Oh, no, 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 I wanted Harley Property Management." And I'm like, "Well, I am the owner of Harley Property Management."
Yeah.
So, but I
Yeah.
always say, you know what? Your community is where you start first. If you really want to do, have a positive impact, and there's nothing wrong with doing things for yourself and building, wealth or opportunities for yourself. But I'm a big person, as whatever energy you put out is what you get back.
Yeah. I love it. Before we go, since we're talking about money, I don't know if you knew this, Jackie, but Latinos contribute $3.5 trillion to the US economy. 3.5 or 3.4? Nick, there? $3.4 trillion to the US economy. This morning, I read an article and I did a fact check as well, but it said that non documented immigrants pay $96 billion in taxes.
Wow.
Billions in taxes. So they're contributing to Medicaid and Social Security, but they're not potentially not going to collect on it one day. So we are a powerful economic society, I think
And
it's awesome.
the thing
And
about,
I, even though you're not Latina, Jackie,
right.
you still contributing, in some capacity because you're bringing your dollars over to the Dominican Republic. So we love it. We love that you're doing that.
Well, but the thing about it is there's been studies that show you, the different groups of individuals or people, when the dollar stays in your community longer, they have stronger economic power. So if you happen to look at an Asian community, and there's, they'll say, "Hey, the money stays in there at least 2 weeks before it actually goes on the outside and helps a regular one." Or if you happen to be in New York, if it was the Jewish community, and I think I can't say what it is for the Latino community because I don't know. But for the African American community, like, the dollar didn't even stay in the community for an hour
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
there. But then we have, places where there's food deserts. And where do you usually find food? The individual food deserts, individuals who are of a minority background. So they can't even have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and foods, but yet the dollars that we have in our community are going to provide a better lifestyle for individuals who don't care about that community. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can't spend your money where you want, but you have to be a little bit more thoughtful on what you're going to do with your money and how it's going to work for you.
Yeah, and we're all people of color, so we're all the same. We're in the same bucket.
Mhm.
This is off a little bit off topic, but kind of talking about Jackie savviness. I don't know if this is true or not, but I just thought it was really savvy. I saw it it was an article online. It wasn't a social media. It was just an article, but it was and I don't even know what state they're doing this, but it was a hamburger shop, and the hamburger shop called their hamburgers different office supplies items so that they could turn the receipt in and it would be a write-off. So the hamburger might be called like filing cabinet or something like that. So when they printed the receipt, is that legal, Maddie? When they printed the receipt, it would be a write-off for office supplies, but it was really a hamburger.
I'm not a tax
How
specialist,
savvy is that?
but they might be able to. This is what I tell everybody. you might do stuff and you might get away with it for 3 years or so, because the government is behind when it comes to auditing and reviewing tax documentation, but eventually they will catch up to you. So I don't know, if you're planning to have the business only for 3-4 years, go for it, but after that you better hide.
Right. And the thing about it is too, it is creative, but if you really had a business, can you write off food sometimes?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Do you know
yeah,
that you can write off a work retreat?
yeah. Maybe a
You
double
know,
write-off. I don't know, but I just thought it was
but
cute, that
but
they named their
but you
stuff.
have to have that documentation. I always say there's two places that I'm afraid of: jail and the IRS. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have the documentation to support it. But yeah, you definitely can write off office supplies and things of that nature.
Yeah,
You can write off food. I mean, you can write off different things, because if we were on a business meeting and we decided to do this virtual, like you see on TikTok, and they're ordering food, guaranteed that's a write off.
yeah. Now that I know that Jackie read all the tax books, anytime I have a question, I'm gonna be hitting you up, okay, Jackie? Because I don't
Well, you
know
know what?
anybody else that has read the textbooks that's a
But they
nurse.
change. But I think the biggest thing is, and that's another thing, get a CPA. If you have a business, even people just think I'm gonna buy the program and do it myself. No, I have a CPA, and it is her job to be not only know the stuff, so I can ask the question, but she tells me the update. She gives me the right information and making
Oh
sure that
yeah,
it's. And if it's something that's like, no, I'm not even chancing that type of thing. But at the same time, if it's legit and it's bona fide, because like even our work vehicle, that truck that we purchased is the EV truck, and if you purchase one of the first 200,000 of a vehicle, you got a tax credit of $7,500. Plus, all the interest on your vehicle is tax deductible because it's in your business name, because it's part of your operating expense, along with your monthly payment, along with your insurance for, driving it. So even though it's for the business, and I'll drive it, to keep it running and everything, but for the most part, I always try to check on my property when I do that. So when you do those things, there's so many things that are tax deductible. There's really no need to kind of fudge and lie on the other stuff, because if you do it right and you do it legally, you'll be just fine.
yeah. So when we won't be buying hamburgers that says filing cabinets, we
No, we'll
promise.
just meet in person together. I have the camera and the crew there, and then guess what? That whole experience is the
and,
tax write off.
and then we eat the filing cabinet and can write it up.
Jackie, thank you so much for being on the show. It was very insightful. We were definitely able to see your heart and your brains today. So I just love it. And so every time we have a show, we always end with a poem. And get ready for the goosebumps, because usually we get goosebumps from Maddie's poems.
Okay.
No pressure, no pressure. No, I'm gonna do something very short today. And it was a poem that I wrote because I think women are amazing. We are so amazing, so multifaceted, and sometimes we don't feel like it, but I feel like we can do it all. So this was a little piece that I wrote for a bigger poem that we did as part of my team. So and it's called "Woman is the Closest Thing to God." So thank you. And I was going to read something else, but listening to Jackie's story and kind of her telling everything that she has done, I was like, this is more appropriate for today. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you, Jackie, for being here with us and sharing
Having me.
your story with us. Okay, so a woman has to be the closest thing to God. A man gives her a seed, and she makes an entire human out of that. Or not. It is her body, and she has the last word on that. She is thrown in the middle of it all because we are only as strong as our core. We all need a strong center. Then why doesn't it feel better? Instead of empowered, she is deemed as the weaker sex, pushed down, but always teaching others how to be their best selves, raising the next generation, constantly having to prove she is enough, earning degrees while not only cleaning but buying her own home. A woman is born into a society, and her future is a story we're all heard before. If it's a boy, he'll be a great lawyer, a doctor. But no, let me tell you about your girl. She needs to get married, have children, a career or two, help her husband thrive, and don't forget, she must always look good. While he can be the best by focusing his 100%, she has to divide herself in fractions and make it all weight the same. Disappointed when her half is less than one, she remembers how God broke one to feed thousands and left everyone satisfied. Tell me she isn't the closest thing to God. She can make miracles daily. Just look at yourself in the mirror and remind yourself of that.
It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. That was great. I love it.
Love that. Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you. And don't forget to vote, people. We voted this week. Please go out and vote. Let your voices be heard. I'm sorry.
If you have not voted,
I meant to
vote.
mention that. But yeah, if you haven't
Yeah.
voted, you got until Tuesday. Do it.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely are voters, and we want to make sure that you guys vote as well if you can. And so we are super excited about this coming up week because it's going to be amazing. And it is November the 3rd today. So, hey, 2 more months and then we're done. Okay.
I don't know if you can see my cup, but
You
it's
already start
Christmas.
decorating for
I'm
Christmas?
Almost. Yes,
Christmas?
girl. The Christmas tree is out and it's, in the living room and very soon. So yeah, my kids always tell me, Mom, what happened to Thanksgiving? I'm like, okay, I've had the full decorations since September. So now it's Christmas.
All right. Hey, I love it. I love that you do that. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Jackie, continue to do what you do. Nikte, get some rest, feel better. Maddie, keep doing what you're doing. And I will see you guys next Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time again.
All right. Thank you for
Enjoy.
having me.
Ciao.
Yes, it was
Gracias.
amazing. Thank you, Jackie.
Bye.
Whether you're a seasoned designer, dabbler, or just starting out, this course is for you.
If you're watching this with your friends, you'll probably make a joke.
Because you know what you feel on the inside
isn't what you want people to know.
If you have to pretend to be happy,
find someone you trust and tell them.
If you get mad at things and you don't know why, or have thoughts about hurting yourself,
find someone you trust and tell them.
You are never alone when you share.
Seriously, people care about you.
It's okay to not understand what you're feeling.
And it's easy to think that you're all alone.
But you don't have to be.
You're never alone when you share.
Don't be ashamed to tell someone you trust what you're feeling.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Find someone you trust and tell them.
Tell a parent.
Tell a teacher. Tell a brother or sister.
Or just tell a friend.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Talk to someone.
Talk to someone.
It's how things get better.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be. A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.